Welcome to Matters Financial and Geopolitical from the Frontier. Thank you for stopping by, as ever. I do appreciate it. I hope the week's gone well. I'm looking forward to the weekend. Let me again start with some macro thoughts. A video interview with a fellow called Marc Faber. He's in Thailand during this interview. There is no safe asset anymore, he says. And, very interesting perspective he's giving. And then I like this tweet, Atlas_facts. $15.3 trillion of exports visualized in a 3D spin-off. And it gives you a very clear view of everything, I think. Home thoughts. Although I'm still finishing off Herman Melville, I jumped to Don DeLillo. Let me give you some quotes from him. I don't want your candor. I want your soul in a silver thimble. That's powerful, isn't it? It is so much simpler to bury reality than it is to dispose of dreams. When I read obituaries, I always note the age of the deceased. Automatically, I relate this figure to my own age. 4 years to go, I think. 9 more years. 2 years and I'm dead. The power of numbers is never more evident than when we use them to speculate on the time of our dying. And then, isn't death the boundary we need? Doesn't it give a precious texture to life, a sense of definition? You have to ask yourself whether anything you do in this life would have beauty and meaning without the knowledge you carry of a final line, a border or limit. And finally, it was the time of year, the time of day for a small insistent sadness to pass into the texture of things. Dusk, silence, iron chill, something lonely in the bone. He's a fabulous writer if you haven't read any Don DeLillo. New Yorker has a fabulous perspective on Cecil Beaton, who's a fantastic photographer. I'll show you some photographs in a minute. And the way the New Yorker describes his portrait photography is startling purity, a sensual directness, and a sparseness of composition. His passion for his individual subjects and his commitment to capturing their charisma on film. It is the most wonderful thing to be seduced, taken along for a ride. Leibovitz writes of the connection between the photographer and the subject. 3 photographs I've got to show you. One, Winston Churchill, 10 Downing Street, 1940, Cecil Beaton photograph. Then this photograph, which caught my attention, and I don't know of whom it is, but it's such a well sort of composed photograph, I thought. And then finally, Marilyn Monroe, New York, 22nd February 1956. And I think that speaks to a sensual directness and a spareness of composition. China's Xinhua News tweeted, China's V-Day parade underscores resolve to pursue peaceful development. On that note, they're going to reduce the army by 300,000 troops. I don't think it's a gesture towards pacifism or anything. It's just a reshuffling of the posture and configuration. 5 Chinese ships were in the Bering Sea as Obama visited Alaska. First time they've ever been near Alaska, and in an article I saw, it is living up to what the Chinese have been saying. We are now a blue water navy. We will operate in the far seas. We are a global presence. Moving on, Zaid Benjamin tweeted Obama meets with the Saudi King Salman in the White House at 11:30 Eastern Time, 6:30 p.m. Riyadh local time, and I put in brackets, oh, to be a fly on the wall. Putin says Assad has agreed to snap elections. If this were free and fair, he would win it hands down, I think. Simply because, I think we saw this in a poll that Al Jazeera did. He remains popular, and I think a lot of people look back with nostalgia at what existed before to compare to what exists now. Cassandra Vinograd, migrant storm train after police withdraw from Budapest station. These photographs are so alarming and extraordinary. And then Stan Collymore, who's a fabulous football player. Hungarian volunteers have set up a projector showing Tom and Jerry for the refugee children. Look at those faces. The Pentagon denies its involvement with the seaborne launch of a massive missile near Los Angeles. This was the photograph someone took of that missile launch. French prosecutors have said with certainty that the wing part found on Reunion Island is from the missing Malaysian airline plane MH370. His Excellency Johann Borgstam in August 2014 said to me that the signal announcing this new arrhythmic normal was the disappearance of MH370. And I wrote a piece after he told me that, saying picking up the signal through the noise of our world in 2014 is no easy thing. In fact, my view is our new normal is a very arrhythmic world. When I plugged arrhythmia into my computer, this is what it threw up. For years, he'd been studying the phenomenon of chaos, of which an arrhythmic heartbeat was a perfect example. And I think often, having looked at what's been happening this year, you can feel the arrhythmia course through the markets. And I was saying that, planes have been falling out of the sky like flies, and the uncertainty around MH370 and MH17, which is sharpened by the way the story is seemingly turned off and on, took me back to Don DeLillo, who said, we are not witnessing the flow of information so much as pure spectacle or information made sacred, ritually unreadable. The small monitors of the office, home and car become a kind of idolatry here, where crowds might gather in astonishment. It's something I saw from anti-war Pentagon's new law of war manual. The US government has come to the view the control and manipulation of information is a soft power weapon. They came to that view a very long time ago. Pentagon's new law of war manual. The US government has come to the view that control, manipulation of information is a soft power weapon, merging psychological operations, propaganda, public affairs, under the catchphrase strategic communications. And I touched on this before when I referenced something written in, I think, 1997. One of the defining bifurcations of the future will be the conflict between information masters and information victims. Information warfare will not be couched in the rationale of geopolitics, the author suggests, but will be spawned, like any Hollywood drama, out of raw emotions, hatred, jealousy, greed. Emotions rather than strategy will set the terms of information warfare struggles. Holger tweeted a 5-year chart of the Shanghai Composite, and the majority of people believe it's going lower. Euro 111.39, dollar index 96.26, Japanese yen 119.30, gained 0.6%, heading for a 2% weekly advance, steepest climb since the period ended December the 12th. Swiss franc 0.9725. The pound is trading at 152.21. That's softened up. The one that's moved dramatically and now below 0.70 is the Aussie, which is at 0.6979. Touch 0.6959, which was the weakest since April 2009. It has dropped 2.8% since August 28. India rupee 66.385, South Korean won 1193.64. The Rial 373.85, Egyptian pound 782.93. Egyptian forwards expecting a very big slump at the Egyptian pound. South African rand around the 1360 level, and I'll come to that in a moment. Investors have pared bets on a September liftoff by the Fed to 30% from 50% a month ago, and that's because of international turmoil, the perception that it has changed things a little bit. Furthermore, calculation is based on the assumption that the effective Fed funds rate will average 0.375% after the first increase. But we've got a big data point today, non-farm payrolls report. and then US markets are closed on Monday for Labor Day. Holger, again, when the world was looking at the ECB, US inflation expectations measured by the five-year swap collapsed to the lowest level since 2008. Dollar index, let me put up a 3-month chart. They might skip September, but I don't think they should. Telegraph, dovish Draghi drives down the euro. I like the photograph of Draghi. Holger, Draghi's sleight of hand in terms of a renewed dose of all talk and no action was once again masterful, taking the euro down, taking the DAX higher. Euro dollar, let me put up a 1-month chart. It's recovering ever so little after yesterday's big sell-off. I'll put up a 1-month chart. Gold, let me put up a 1-month chart of that. I'm quite pleased that it sort of got rejected. 11.50, we're now at 11.24. Crude oil, my goodness, hasn't that been a wild ride? It's just been unprecedented. Now at $46.28, I think we'll see 2015 lows this year, fresh 2015 lows. I like this cream of the cobblers, Manalo Blahnik in his London office. Holger against Brazil real drops for the 5th day. I remain very bearish the real. Let's move to Africa. Tall, smug, and said to be trigger happy too. The 41-year-old Taganda fought for different rebel groups as well as for the Democratic Republic of Congo's army from his late teens. He eventually fled to Rwanda in 2013, and the saying until he was arrested, he had boldly walked around the restaurants and tennis courts of Goma, flaunting his impunity like a Medal of Honor, while engaging in ruthless human rights abuses. This is Human Rights Watch. Ida Sawyer, who I think is at this trial, quoting Taganda at the ICC, says, "I have never attacked civilians. I am a revolutionary rebel, not a criminal." Falling currencies raise debt service fears across Africa. I've been speaking about this for quite a while, haven't I? There's certainly been a turn in sentiment around Africa. There is a perception in some cases grounded in reality that some countries have been borrowing rather quickly. Weaker exchange rates make it harder for them to service their debts. Yields have soared. $1 billion April 24 Zambia bond, for example, has climbed over 10%. Ghana's over 10%. Investors are less and less likely to have appetite for Africa's debt in light of what's happening now. I'm really worried about some countries. Falling local currencies are adding to the pressure by making it more expensive for countries to repay external bonds. Ghana's Cedi, Zambia's Kwacha, and Mozambique's Metical have all weakened more than 15% against the dollar this year. Joseph Kabila visited Peking as well. There's been a whole bunch of people going that way, all looking for cash. Maduro got 5 billion. South African all-share rallied 2.4% yesterday. It's back to positive territory for the year, up 1.28% and above 50,000 for the first time since the 19th of August. Dollar Rand, have a look at this 1-month chart. And JP Morgan, who sent me a daily email about their perspective on FX, are very, very bearish. An extension to new all-time highs looks very likely now, they say. Once the former high at 1385 would be taken out, we'd have to conclude that we're most likely dealing with a third wave impulse of much higher scale, with projected price targets of 14.8728 and 16.6807. 16.6, wow, that's big. Forward contracts imply a 20% weakening in the Egyptian pound in 12 months. 1-year forwards traded at 9.775. Reached 10.125 on August 24th. Egyptian stock market rallied 2.03% yesterday to narrow the loss this year to 18.272%. Nigerian all-share down 1.6%, down 15.46% year to date. Ghana Stock Exchange Composite Index down 6.89% year to date. Coming to Kenya, I attended a function at the Strathmore Business School. where they've created a mining faculty, and the Cabinet Secretary for Mining was there. I participated in something which was called Simba's Den, which was some new, fresh ideas based along that other program. In this presentation last night, the Cabinet Secretary said the license of Cortec, a Canadian company looking at rare earths not in Kwale County, was issued on the day of the elections when we were at the Bomas of Kenya. He said, Equity's James Mwangi, in a letter to the central bank, said that the new changes were both unjustifiable and unconstitutional. Equity Bank has written to the financial sector regulator protesting Safaricom's increase of M-Pesa tariffs on transfers made from bank accounts to the money transfer platform. Whereas we do not contest the right by Safaricom to vary the prevailing tariffs, we are disturbed by the timing and reasons subscribed to the variation and believe the outcome of the variation is in violation of the law. This calls for your intervention. I highlight this photo taken on May the 26th, 2015 by Zinua, showing the construction site of the Savo River Super Bridge in Taita Taveta, Kenya. This is the SGR, the standard gauge railway, that's being built at top speed. On that note, I'll go back to a piece I wrote on January the 7th, 2013, which is describing my journey down to Mombasa, and parallel to that road runs the old railway. My Christmas holiday ritual is to jump into a car and take the family down to the coast. The Nairobi-Mombasa road arrows into immensities and is impossible to believe, and you'll know where I got that from. It retains a near mystical hold on my imagination and connects me to my childhood and beyond. Dad, when I was young, used to own an Alfa Romeo. There were only about 3 in the country then. No one could fix them, of course. And my pilgrimage along that road started then in his Alfa Romeo when we used to come from Mombasa up to Nairobi. Now, of course, we set off from Nairobi, but the road still has its hold. The landmarks still reach out to me. This time we were swarmed by doves near Imali, and Imali was once a little sleepy little place and suddenly expanded. I think that's to do with the devolution. It was really quite noticeable when I'd been around the country as to heightened, sharpened activity away from the centre. Landmarks still reach out to me. There is still the eerie and deserted, very Oscar Niemeyer building, which was once meant to be a petrol station with a restaurant. We stopped at Makindu, which is like being teleported to Amritsar. The Sikhs have built this place. It's open to anyone. You get a free meal. It's like a magnet for people from all over. The food is great. And it's generally very, very clean and well organized. And it's a nice place to visit. We also stopped at McKinnon Road, where there is a shrine, which again is interestingly houses the tomb of Saeed Baghali, a Punjabi foreman at the time of the building of the railway, who was renowned for his strength. And here too, again, what I like about it is you get all kinds of people. Let me show you a photograph of the old Mombasa-Nairobi railway, taken just outside the entrance to Savo East, one of the railway crossing at Manyani Gate in Savo as well. Savo, of course, the Nairobi-Mombasa road drives right through the Savo. And that somewhat eerie and deserted petrol station, which I was talking about. Holga, again, shakeout in markets, sending traders back to basics. Currencies of nations with current account surplus outperform. That informs us of why the shilling is also underperforming so much. The shilling is above 105. Nairobi all-share, whilst down 11.01% this year, has rallied 5.41% since closing at a 2015 low on the 27th of August. Nairobi NSE 20, whilst down 18.77% in 2015, is 1.776% above its 2015 low from the 27th of August. I wish you a great weekend. Hope we can continue this on Monday. Thank you for stopping by.